The code-locked door clicks, and the room trembles with fluorescent blue. Guards whisper, glancing at the new list in their hands. Your name isolated at the bottom, bolded, with no record, no signature. "Who is this?" murmurs the junior officer, his fingers twitching as cutting rain taps against the thick glass. He wipes his palm on his uniform, anxiety dulling the sharp lines of his jaw. On screen after screen, lines of encrypted text scroll. Your entry always remains, refusing to be erased. A senior technician pushes her chair back, voice low. "Is this some special ops code? No division, just a name." Her words trail into the metallic hush. From a back corner, the communications officer in Pakistan leans in, pointing at a digital watermark faint in the file's margin. "This has, look, like the old protection shapes. They taught them at home. We paint them at Eid, but never on anything like this." Outside, thunder rolls. The circuit boards on the desk glisten in the damp air, every surface humming with sullen electricity. Flashes of memory flicker, stories told by lamplight about ancestors who carried gold-threaded charms sewn into their sleeves. None of that should have touched this place. Yet the sense grows, between code, rain, and restless eyes, that a larger story has slipped past the guardrails and into this sterile haven. A lieutenant, brows furrowed, runs a scan of your background, lips barely moving. It's a ghost. No digital trail, not even a distant cousin. Across the hall, the security commander keys in the night's passcode, jaw tight. "We need protocol. If the general doesn't answer, call the embassy." A pause collects in the air, everyone's breath uneven. The hum of machines is joined by a high metallic ring, the old emergency display sparking briefly. Dust swirls in the security camera's blue beam, like secrets dancing in plain sight. A clerk rubs at his chest, frowning. "Should I call them in?" His superior just shakes his head, watching the door, half hoping the whole mystery is an error that will fade at dawn. But no one moves to delete the name. No one dares look away for long. The roster sits open, your name gleaming as the only certainty in a room suddenly full of doubts, omens, and the sharp, metallic scent of fate. Boots strike the concrete. Sharp, echoing. General Kavinsky strides in, blue emergency lights flashing across his polished metals. The watch officers freeze as he scans the room, zeroing in on the open roster. Dust catches in the air, swirling through a thin beam beneath the security camera. He reads, voice clipped. "Who authorized this?" Silence closes in. Screens pulse along the walls. No one answers. The general's gaze settles on your name again. Eyes narrowing, jaw wired tight. "We have clearance on every person in this sector. But this..." He taps the page. "This doesn't come from us." A staff sergeant clears his throat, voice bracing. "Sir, no digital trace, no orders logged. The file entered at 0213. The security flag tripped, but the encryption is older than our system." The general turns, a tremor in his hand barely hidden. "Older? Such codes were retired with the old regime. Are you saying someone breached us with a relic protocol?" A technician nods uneasily. "It's marked with a cipher. Sir, it looks like..." She falters, eyeing the faint sigil in the bottom margin. "Like the ancestor marks. We used to paint them at home. Not for things like this." A heavy beat passes. Kavinsky sweeps a haze of rain from his sleeve and exhales, voice softer, nearly haunted. "This room, keep it locked. Find the original courier. Do not speak this name where anyone else will listen." An officer begins to question, but the general holds up his hand, steel in every muscle. Protocol Delta. Tell no one. Not command, not family, not clergy. I need a moment. Alone. The air weighs down as he closes the roster. He steps into the corridor, shadows bending as the door thuds behind him. For an instant, only dust and silent screens remain. Your name a bright, stubborn ember in the bluish hush, echoing far beyond this bunker's walls. Blue light flickers. A clock restarts. Something in history, paused, then suddenly moving again. A tap against the window pulls me from sleep. A hard knock, then another. I blink into the dark, phone vibrating with an unfamiliar number. The message bare bones and coded. You've been selected. Report to Gate C before sunrise. Do not bring anyone. Carry only what you cannot leave behind. The screen glows cold in my hand. The message already gone when I try to read it again. Rain whispers on the street as I lace my boots. My old bracelet slips over my wrist. The silver charms etched with lines only my grandmother could ever explain. As I tighten my jacket, static prickles at the back of my neck, a humming from the lamp above, flickering as if it, too, feels the pull of some new current. Outside, the air tastes of wet metal and coming change. A neighbor's curtain shifts. Eyes peer down. I nod politely, heart hammering a wordless question. At the end of the block, a stray cat circles my ankles, fur bristling, then darts away when headlights slice the gloom. My shoes slap cold puddles. The symbols on my bracelet pulse with warmth against my skin, soft at first, then sharper, as if echoing an old signal sent just for me. At the military checkpoint, a guard flicks his flashlight up and down my figure. Name? He grunts, face unreadable in the rain. I clear my throat. You already have it, I say, voice steadier than I feel. He checks a tablet, glances at my bracelet, then back at my eyes. It says you're expected. Can't explain it. Just go through. Beyond the gate, fluorescent lights flicker, illuminating a world half shadow, half alive with hidden intent. My footprints mark the wet pavement, the hum of broken street lamps overhead syncing with my pulse. A second guard opens a small door. They're waiting for you, she says, softer, eyes darting once to the silver on my wrist. Do you ever feel like you're walking into a story you already dreamed? I pause on the threshold, every sense on edge. Rain dripping from the brim of my cap, bracelet tingling, an old memory surfacing but refusing to take shape. This moment is not just orders and fear. It's the ache of ancient echoes in an empty street, the buzz of destiny waking in my veins. I step inside. The world blurs, then sharpens, as if somewhere, far beyond command or protocol, a line in history is about to be crossed, and I'm the only one who understands its true cost. Security escorts guide me into a windowless corridor, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. I clutch my jacket tighter, hearing footsteps echo behind me. Different rhythms, different shoes, marking hierarchy and hidden tension. The door ahead slides open with a sharp hiss. Inside, an oval conference table gleams under muted lamps. Men and women from across the world circle the table, each with a different accent, a different emblem stitched to their suit or scarf. The lead guard leans in, voice hushed. Please take the end seat. My feet shuffle, uncertain but with no option but forward. I sit, folding my hands as an Indian intelligence officer adjusts his glasses, flipping through a folder marked not just with stamps and seals, but a swirling blue spiral in the margin. He glances up, eyes keen. You recognize this mark? He asks. I catch a shimmer of gold on his pinky ring, something almost familiar from childhood stories. Not exactly. It just feels close, I answered quietly. A Nigerian colonel leans back, clicking prayer beads across his knuckles. Your surname. Did it once mean keeper of gates in your region? She nods at my confusion, her own worry flickering. We receive names like yours at crossroads when the skies shift. From the far side, a Scottish analyst places a tattered tarot card on the table, the image of a watchman standing on a fortress wall. In my family, this card appears when fate bends. You bring more than paperwork to this inquiry. The air in the room is muggy. Aftershave, incense, metal, each official clutching something of comfort. A rosary, a braided cord, a lucky coin with edges worn thin. An older Asian woman traces lines on a scratched silver medallion. We need to know, she says, accent gentle but intent. What do you dream when the rain wakes you? Sometimes the answer lies behind the eyes, not in your words. Narration drifts between words, heart racing. Every question they ask is really a test of my heritage, my knowledge, and what secrets might pulse in the space where stories and security collide. I realize this is more than an investigation. The inquiries reach for something mythic, a key to the puzzle of why I am here, and why all these nations fear or hope for what I might awaken. A hush descends as my fingers brush the inside of my sleeve, feeling the familiar outline of my grandmother's old coin pressed tight. Dozens of eyes wait, not for confession, but for recognition, as if tonight, the crossroads of myth and mission meets at my chair. A hush as the truth sinks in. Overhead lights hum, casting sharp circles on the polished table. The officials watch, folders stacked by their elbows, a mix of suspicion and something older, harder to name. A Scottish analyst flicks his tarot card, edge tapping, nails quick. This surname of yours, these dreams, when did your father start humming those old songs? She asks, voice even. My throat is dry, words slow to shape. He sang when storms came. My grandmother drew the same spiral I wear now. I unbutton my sleeve, showing the faded bracelet, metal cool to the touch. One official leans closer, eyes narrowing as she reads a worn letter tucked inside the folder. Her tone is sharper. This phrase repeats, sent to watch the threshold. Who wrote it first? I frown, remembering blurred handwriting and tobacco on the kitchen table. I always thought it was my grandfather, but in every box of family papers, it's there. Different hands, different years. An Indian officer lays two old photos side by side. One shows my aunt, grinning with a marked coin. The other a young man with a tattoo along his forearm. A thin blue line and a jagged sun. He points to a faded stamp in the corner. This signature matches the protective mark in the roster's margin. Only 1 in 5 million share this marker, and all are off-record, passed by word or ritual. The room grows tighter with each answer. The Nigerian colonel glances at a DNA sheet. Traces link your blood to Légion d'Espérance, guardians who vanished during the last World War. Papers rustle. A glass coin spins on the table, reflecting dull overhead light. You may not carry a rank, but lineage chose you long before anyone in this room. A Chinese investigator leafs through a battered notebook, voice softer. Your story carries echoes of those we once called threshold keepers. We trust science, but every pattern here is older than our methods. I stare at the table, heart thumping in a new rhythm. These questions aren't about military clearance. Each answer untangles a knot older than me, my family's old songs, a tattoo in faded blue, the coin that spins but never falls. In this circle of strangers, I sense they're not just searching my history, but their own. Pieces of hope and warning passed down by hands that remembered more than they ever said aloud. A single coin trembles, then runs still, a hush in the air as history and identity mingle in the dust and light. Have you ever discovered something about your ancestry that changed the way you see the world? Share your story below. A sterile lab room glows with white light. I sit at the edge of a plastic chair, rolling up my sleeve for the government scientist. Her fingers are precise, gentle as she swabs my arm, but you can hear the urgency in the tap of her pen and the snap of gloves against her wrist. Genetic memory, she says quietly, prepping the sample kit. Sometimes the body keeps more than scars. Sometimes it keeps dreams. The air pops as the microscope flickers on, monitors beeping with waiting data. She places the blood sample on the scanner. As the machine hums, a faint whiff of chili and sandalwood hangs in the air. Consultants from Egypt whisper prayers, while a Mongolian healer unrolls leather pouches, spreading beaded charms on the table beside a tribal DNA chart. The readings flash up. Patterns shimmer on the screen, synapses mapping into shapes. Not just genes, but lines and curves almost familiar, like fragments of the old protection glyphs my grandmother used to trace in flour before sunrise. Look at these, the scientist mutters, eyes wide. Most brains spark at 6 or 7 anchor points. Your synapses sketch an actual sequence, almost a sigil for endurance, the kind described in the old Tartessian scrolls. She leans back, disbelief mixing with a thrill of discovery. It's as if parts of you remember prayers you never learned, signals meant for a time the body couldn't forget. A Mongolian healer lays his hand over mine, the weight both steady and electric. You are what our ancestors called a living mark-bearer, not a myth after all. He nods solemnly at the blue veins pulsing beneath my skin. The Egyptian consultant consults her tablet, voice soft. We see this arrangement during rites of passage readings. Every lineage holds a different key. You have more than one. That shouldn't be possible except in the oldest stories. The scientist double-checks, runs the sample again, then turns the monitor toward me. The code in you is adaptive, not inherited by accident. Experiences, traumas, and protections ride in your blood, shaping what you see and how you act. It's almost chosen. She pushes a printout closer. There's a reason your name showed up. The legacy isn't just history. It's written into who you are. A hush settles, broken only by the low crackle of sage in the healer's bowl and the steady pulse of light across the keyboard. In this moment, the boundaries blur, science and ritual, destiny and doubt, all converging in silent awe. Something deep inside feels recognized, not for what I do, but for what I was always meant to remember. The hum of computers is almost lost beneath sudden alarms. Monitors flash, ancient symbols spiraling across world maps. A technician shouts, "Signal detected! Simultaneous bursts from Kyoto, Nigeria, Mali, and Tikal. The pattern matches." She freezes, eyes darting to your name still glowing on the roster's edge. Rain slaps the window, harder, as if driven by a force outside weather. The room goes tense. Scientists scramble to overlay satellite readings. In West Africa, masked dancers form a spiral with copper banners under storm-dark skies. The leader's staff bears your initials burned deep in the shaft. In Japan, monks halt their star watch, stunned. The old temple registry glows with the roster's name. One monk bows, voice whispering into the wind. This is the hour. The crossing repeats. A colonel wipes sweat from his neck. These sites, some of the world's oldest sites of power, are linked. But why now? Another flips security feeds. Ink stains a ceremonial board in Istanbul. Prayers chanted as a spiral unfurls at dawn. In the Amazon, elders loop beaded talismans around a sacred tree, chanting your full name between gaps of rain and thunder. Deep inside HQ, your bracelet pulses and shifts, metal warm, symbols almost moving against your skin. I glance at the scientist, her hands trembling over her tablet. It's resonance, she breathes. Every signal connects, a living circuit running through you. Outside, the world answers in ritual. In Nigeria, the dancers call for rain. In Kyoto, monks offer incense, lighting blue candles as dawn cracks over the horizon. In Benin, old priests draw new patterns in cornmeal beside shrines, the same spirals already scrawled on satellite images. In classrooms across Europe, children unknowingly repeat your initials as part of a forgotten lullaby, handed down when the world once teetered. Back in the control room, the general enters again, face ashen, fear and awe warring behind his eyes. All those years training for invasion, for war, he mutters. But the test we face is older, written in a code not just of atoms, but of memory and spirit. We answer, or we vanish. The alarms fade to a pulse, a sound not of panic, but of awakening. Outside, the rain lightens, carrying the echo of distant drums and temple bells across lands and languages. For a single breath, it feels as though the world itself is alive. Each rite and celebration, a living bridge. Cosmic signals flowing straight through your veins, waiting for a choice only you can make. The general's steps echo down the hall, each one slower, heavier than before. He re-enters the control room, face drawn, shoulders less square. In his hand, he holds a battered black stone, its surface inscribed with the same sharp sigil etched on the family letter I carry tucked in my sleeve. He clears his throat, voice low but carrying. You all need to understand. This isn't the first time a name appeared when our systems shouldn't allow it. His gaze slides to me and holds. Every major army keeps a secret ledger. Names that surface, not through assignment, not through birthright, but when the world changes. They appear at the same moment in Moscow, in Istanbul, in places you'd think believe only in ghosts. A hush settles, broken only by the control panel's steady whir. He places the stone in front of me. I held this once, he continues, his hand lingering on the sigil, voice shaky. When I was your age, the old registry called me just as now. They said it was a legacy, warrior, healer, watcher, wasn't sure which. But the stone grows warm in the presence of the next keeper. I reach out, feeling the surface heat through my fingertips. It's strangely comforting, electric, a pulse of recognition that travels up my arm. Eyes around the room widen. Some officials bow their heads. Others sit ramrod straight, unwilling to betray awe or fear. General Kavinsky's eyes meet mine again, softer. Whatever brought your name here is older than any banner or algorithm. We are the last to remember why this matters. But now, you're part of what comes next. Don't wait for orders. History turns on small things, stones, songs, and yes, sometimes a record no one meant to keep alive. As the room falls silent, the black stone glows with a faint inner light, and I realize the truth I've been searching for isn't just in files or codes, but in a lineage of protectors waiting for the sign. The registry is more than a list. It's an invitation, and tonight the world waits for what I will do with it. I follow the general and a silent guard deeper into the building, nerves twisting as we halt outside a vault. 2 old codes are tapped. The heavy door groans wide, revealing a chamber lined with glass cases and leather-bound scrolls. Wisps of blue fire flicker at the corners, dancing shadows over artifacts on velvet stands. The general's voice echoes, solemn. Every few generations, the protocols awaken. This is not punishment. You must choose what to bear. Each relic here keeps memories, not all your own. A panel opens, presenting 3 objects. An obsidian blade etched with lines so fine they glint silver. A necklace, its teeth carved with spirals and suns. A scroll, inked in a script you vaguely recognize from old dreams. Mother-of-pearl beads roll beneath your palm as you hover. A dim chanting rises from below, some ancient ritual stirring, not for show, but because what happens now reconnects old lines. I glance at the general, who lets a slow breath go. The artifact you choose opens one path. Every watcher before you faced a vision of courage, sacrifice, or revelation. You can refuse, but then the trial finds another. Begin when you're ready. My hand trembles over the blade. With a touch, the room plunges into a vision. Not my own, but a memory of someone lost in tundra. Warmth in blood and sorrow in steel. A promise made under flickering auroras. I shift to the necklace, heart pounding, a jungle haze, teeth suspended over the heart of a healer protecting a village with her last song. The scroll unrolls on its own, a surge of déjà vu, marching with kin beneath starlight, the language of oath and hope spilling from my lips even as thunder splits the horizon. I pull back, breathing hard, the relics vibrating in turn. The chanting grows in the bones of the room. Which story is mine to awaken? Am I blade, voice, or memory's keeper? For a heartbeat, all 3 seem to know me, and the next flicker of blue fire bends toward the scroll, inviting but not demanding. I choose. The scroll's warmth enfolds my hand. A tide of visions washing through me, fields of battle, circles of healing, lost homecomings and silent vows. My body shakes, not from fear, but from the weight of every watcher before me willing to try. The general nods, relieved, stepping back as the chanting subsides. The vault's air clears, scroll humming faintly against my skin. The trial isn't about winning or power. It's the courage to let ancient stories choose you, and to say yes in the moment history splits. I step from the chamber, changed, never alone, carrying 1,000 voices and one burning hope. Before sunrise, muted alarms ripple along the compound. I step out, feeling the scroll's weight, a hum inside my jacket, my path lit by blue strobes and shadows. News of my trial is everywhere now. Even the air tingles with rumor and vigilance. At the gates, unfamiliar faces wait. A Maori elder steps forward, Tomoko shining faint in dawn's haze, carrying a bundle tied with greenstone and flax. "We heard the bone song," he says, nodding once. Beside him, a Beninese ritualist offers cola and salt, marking spiral lines in red earth with swift, practiced hands. "Ancestors speak where old symbols rise," her tone both gentle and watchful. 2 Celtic druids hang back, eyes sharp, mist swirling around cloaks fastened by iron knots. Every relic calls an opposing force, one murmurs, tapping a twisted wood staff. We come to shield, not command. Government cars idle close, windows reflecting the coming storm, radios spitting bursts of code. From the shadows, rival operatives track each move, tech blinking on their collars. "Will you join with us or stand alone?" asks a low voice behind a mirrored lens. I sense agendas twisting. Some want to claim my gift, others to test it, a few to destroy what they fear cannot be controlled. In the courtyard's chaos, supporters form a loose ring, singing fragments of protective chants in Benin's Fon, Maori, and Irish Gaelic. The air thickens with the scent of pepper and sage. Drones above buzz, cutting through drums rising from the far end of the compound. One officer's hand lingers at his weapon, but a Maori child, unafraid, slips a greenstone bead into my palm. This is yours now, if you choose. A moment of hush spreads, choice and uncertainty threading every look, every ritual. I grip the scroll, the relic's warmth a steady anchor. Each group carries hope and guarded fear, but all eyes are waiting. Will I trust their ancient shields, their new technology, or my own strange inheritance? Narration softens. This is the hour of bridges, not conquerors or captors, but keepers who stand where worlds overlap. My answer won't only protect me, but ripple through everyone who ever believed, secretly or openly, that some gifts are meant to be shared, and some to be fiercely guarded until the time is right. Close with the beat of ancient drums and a digital drone, both matching my heartbeat as I step toward the circle, unsure, but no longer alone. The ring of drummers fades as I step back inside. All around me time distorts. Blades of sunlight cut through ceiling slats, motes swirling in their beams. I clutch the scroll to my chest, its hum pulsing in my veins, just under my heartbeat. A hush falls. Elders and envoys form a half circle, watching as the last word of ancient chant dies on the wind. Then, the world blinks, and I am no longer merely here. I stand on a ridge overlooking impossible distance. Armies dissolve, roads bend to starlit horizons. At my side, generations appear, faces echoing my own, their hands joined in a shimmering line, eyes luminous with trust, fatigue, and silent triumph. A great golden whirlwind rises, its core clear, a gate to 100 intersecting journeys. An old Lakota war song weaves through Persian prayer, Gaelic blessing, and modern code, twisting into one refrain. Keep watch as we pass the light. I see a small girl lift a single candle, flame white gold. As she breathes, the candle's light pours into my hands, brightening the spiral on my palm, and explodes into a hush that stills time itself. Shadows part. Every watcher in the vision steps aside. Elders, children, warriors, healers, making space for something more. A choir of ancestors circles the crossroads, arms raised in peace. To awaken, I hear, is to choose suffering, not as pain, but as witness to hope. To hold the line between worlds is to bleed and mend for those behind you. One ancestor presses a flame bright as a seed to my tongue. I taste lightning, tears, and song all at once. Below, armies drop weapons and kneel as a river of blue light turns midnight fields luminous. A mother hands her infant to the cosmos. Soldiers weep in relief, their faces open, unafraid. History rewrites itself in gold spirals winding out with every step I take. Hope uncoiling in places where fear once ruled. I stagger, tears streaking my face. The old scroll in my hand is gone, yet every line, every vow burns inside my skin. I hear a last voice, gentle, near, like my grandmother's at dawn. Remember, Watcher, your courage is not in what you fight, but in how you hold the light. I open my eyes. Back in the room, all eyes are fixed on me. The air is charged with a hope I have never known, a readiness to rise, to endure, to pass on the bright seed now living in my bones. As the vision's glow fades, My hand rests on the spiral mark at my heart. The hush of ancestors echoing in the morning stillness. A new world on the edge of waking. The chatur stillness from the vision lingers as the air thickens. Charged, breathless, all eyes turning to me. Around the room, envoys from every corner murmur, the scroll's warm imprint bright on my palm. The general paces, boots sending small echoes along polished floors. Shadows lengthen. Outside, a wind sharpens, catching the edges of banners at the main gate. I stare at my reflection in a pane of glass. Color gone from my face. The spiral mark faintly glowing near my throat. The moment is yours, the Mongolian healer whispers, gaze steady. The Maori elder stands silent, but the glint of greenstone at his neck says more than any words. A reminder that no one chooses the crossroads, but every choice remakes their world. The Beninese ritualist clasps her beads. To surrender is not weakness, she intones. Sometimes letting go preserves the old song for the next watcher. One of the druids bows his head. Yet to stand is to risk everything, your peace, your future, so others may see another dawn. He stares at me, an unspoken respect in his silence. A security officer shifts nervously at the door, watching the digital feed spike blue, casting odd shadows. From somewhere distant, a cold wind snakes around my ankles, making the hair on my arms rise. The general stops, voice nearly breaking. You don't have to say yes, but beware. If you decline, the cycle repeats, and the roster will soon claim another. My thoughts tumble. Memories of old kitchen songs and family laughter. Classmates who might one day stand here in my place. The bright, searing hope in every ancestor's hand. I search for doubt, but find only a humming. Fear folded into resolve. Nerves woven tight where courage strains to surface. I look up, meeting each gaze. The question heavy as prophecy. Will I carry this charge, risking joy and sorrow alike? Or will I vanish? Let the weight shift to another shoulder lost to history. My voice sounds new, weathered by the choice. I stand. Whoever sent my name knew this was the moment, and I won't let the chain break with me. The blue shimmer in the air brightens, shadows deepening behind. For a heartbeat, my own shadow stretches out, impossibly long, intertwining with the echoes of thousands who once made this choice. A hush. Then an elder murmurs a prayer, and the air softens. The general breathes out, weight shifting from his eyes. So be it. The watch resumes, with you at its heart. I press the spiral mark to my chest, feeling the wind still. Somewhere across the globe, bells toll, signals for unity or warning, no one can yet say. But deep inside, I sense the next chapter beginning, fueled not by certainty, but by the raw truth that every watcher's courage is measured by the moment they choose not just for themselves, but for the world waiting beyond. A ripple moves across the command center as my choice settles into the air. The names on the digital roster pulse, letters shifting, some glowing, others slowly fading. One by one, each entry cycles through lines of code, then locks into place. Bells ring out in far cities, a low, respectful peal. Children in Delhi and Rabat dip their hands in clay, spiraling henna onto one another's palms. In New York and Hanoi, flags lower in the chill morning sun, silent tributes marking a change no one quite understands. General Kavinsky approaches, spiral medallion cradled in his hand. You accept what most would flee, he says, pinning it to my coat with measured care. The gleam of the medallion catches sunlight through the bunker's slit windows, throwing rays over benched soldiers and pale technicians alike. For a breath, The old and the new stand side by side, a salute pressed into a careful bow, an ancestral chant swirling into the rhythm of boots on steel. Elders and children gather in the far corners of the world, burning old regrets and blessing the new order. Rituals shift. A West African drummer leads a drumline, then bows in army salute. In Krakow, priests whisper protective prayers beside officers. Ink spirals decorate the hands of festival-goers in Lagos, while in Dublin, veterans and storytellers light lanterns at the river's edge, each flame a promise to watch and remember. In the bunker, silence fills with purpose. The roster now bears my name at its center, the mark of choice shining clear. For a flicker, the spiral on the medallion pulses, warm with a thread of hope spun from a line that stretches farther back than war or peace. Sunlight slices through the end of the room, tying every salute, every old dance into a single new cycle. This is not the end, but the season's turning, witnessed by millions and quietly guarded by one more watcher awake at the threshold. Weeks pass. The world resumes its routine at the surface, but everywhere I walk, the air feels subtly changed. My name now glows at the roster's center, a symbol not just of duty, but of the story no one dares speak aloud. In airports, I notice extra glances from security, a nod from a gatekeeper who presses a spiral ring to her heart. At a crowded market, an old man's gaze lingers on my medal, recognizing the new order in the pattern. At border crossings, subtle signs, a charm left on a guard post, or a whispered phrase in a lost tongue, hint that the circle of watchers is larger than I imagined. In distant mosques, elders pause at the final line of prayer, then gesture a spiral in the air. In tiny Himalayan hamlets, children hang ribbons from trees when a soldier approaches. The old registry has been sealed, generals relieved, but the sense of vigilance, of quiet readiness, lives on. I move quietly through crowds, the spiral medallion tucked close. In a village near the mountains, wind chimes tinkle softly, their echoes blending with the ancient drums that pulse beneath city noise. These sounds thread together decades of hope and burden. Everywhere, invisible eyes watch, not with suspicion, but with reverence. Sometimes I catch their gaze, a silent acknowledgement, a reminder that awakening does not end with a single name or moment. A child races by, the future unknowing but full of unspoken promise. I smile, heart swelling. The watcher's duty is lighter now, shared hope woven through a world still learning to balance fear with resilience. If this calling stirred something deep within you, subscribe for more spiritual mysteries. In your own life, have you ever received a sign you couldn't ignore? Tell us what you did next.